December 1981, West Coast Main Line, somewhere between Glasgow and London. A train full of journalists and VIPs is tearing through the Scottish winter at speeds no British train was ever designed for. The carriages tilt through curves like they are mounted on a ship. The landscape is a blur. Champagne is flowing freely in the buffet car, and somewhere halfway through the journey, someone starts feeling unwell. Then another, and another. The next morning, it is splashed across every newspaper in the country. Britain's Wonder Train makes passengers sick. 4 days later, the train is withdrawn from service. They called it a national embarrassment. 40 years later, it is still the benchmark no one has managed to beat. The advanced passenger train was born out of desperation. By the mid-1960s, British Rail was hemorrhaging passengers to cars and planes, and the West Coast Main Line, the crucial spine connecting London, Birmingham, Manchester, Liverpool, and Glasgow, was a Victorian relic full of curves that made high-speed running physically impossible with conventional equipment. The French were building dedicated straight tracks for their TGV. The Japanese had done the same with the Shinkansen. Britain looked at the price tag for new infrastructure, looked at what remained of the budget, and chose a different path. Instead of straightening the tracks, they would build a train that could handle the curves. It was clever, it was ambitious, and it ran straight into a wall of institutional resistance that would eventually strangle it. The solution was active tilting, not the passive pendulum systems that Spanish manufacturer Talgo had been experimenting with. Instead, hydraulic cylinders pushed each carriage into the correct angle before the curve even started, up to 9 degrees of tilt, layered on top of whatever banking was already built into the track. The engineering team, most recruited from aerospace rather than traditional railway backgrounds, calculated this would allow the APT to take curves roughly 40% faster than anything else running on British metals. They also solved hunting oscillation, that violent side-to-side shimmy, which had limited train speed since the steam age. Their computer-designed wheel sets were stable well past 140 miles per hour. The experimental version APTE ran from 1972 to 1976. It was gas turbine powered, with 4 cars and lightweight aluminium construction throughout. It set a British speed record of 152 miles per hour on the Great Western Main Line in August 1975, a record for non-electrified track that still stands. The electric prototype APTPE followed shortly after. There were 3 train sets of 14 cars each, with 8,000 horsepower from body-mounted traction motors, the most powerful domestic train Britain had ever constructed. In December 1979, during high-speed testing on the West Coast route, it hit 162.2 miles per hour, a UK record that stood for 23 years until Eurostar broke it on purpose-built high-speed track. The technology genuinely worked, and then everything fell apart. Not because of physics, because of people. British Rail's internal politics had turned toxic. The advanced passenger train team, called APT, was seen as arrogant outsiders with aerospace thinking and computer models, and they were actively resented by the traditional railway engineers, who had built their careers on incremental improvement rather than revolutionary leaps. A BBC transport correspondent reporting at the time said they were so despised within the organization that they were not even allowed to use the same toilets as the conventional design staff. Budget cuts imposed by successive governments slashed the planned fleet from 8 train sets to 4, and then down to 3. The hydrokinetic brakes performed adequately in controlled trials, but they used systems that were not fully prepared for harsh Scottish winter conditions. When temperatures dropped, moisture in the braking air system froze solid. The tilt system also had a calibration problem, and management never gave the engineering team sufficient time or resources to solve the problem properly before forcing the train into public service. The motion sickness was real, and it wasn't simply drunk journalists making excuses. British Rail's decision to serve unlimited free alcohol on the inaugural press trip certainly made things worse, but the core issue was biomechanical. When the tilt compensation worked too perfectly, passengers' eyes registered the carriage rotating through curves, while their inner ears and bodies felt no lateral force whatsoever. That mismatch between visual and vestibular input triggered genuine nausea in a significant number of travelers. The fix turned out to be almost embarrassingly simple. Engineers reduced the tilt compensation to around 80%, so passengers would feel a slight push in curves, enough to match what their eyes were seeing. But by the time the engineers implemented the solution, public perception had already been destroyed beyond any reasonable hope of recovery. December 7, 1981. The inaugural press run to Glasgow set a schedule record of 4 hours and 15 minutes. The return trip saw tilt system failures, with several carriages stuck at awkward angles that made walking through the train difficult. December 9th, temperatures dropped sharply across Scotland, and the brakes froze up completely. The train limped into Crewe Station and was immediately pulled from passenger service. The tabloids had their field day. They dubbed it Queasy Rider. The most expensive train Britain had ever built was reduced to a punchline in 4 days flat. After the cameras left and the press moved on to other stories, the engineers quietly fixed everything. The motion sickness solution was implemented across all vehicles. The brake system was properly modified for winter operation. By mid-1984, the APT was back in revenue service as an unadvertised relief train on the West Coast Main Line, running reliably day after day without significant incident. In December 1984, one of the sets completed London to Glasgow in 3 hours, 52 minutes and 40 seconds. That is 401 miles at an average speed of 103 miles per hour, including a 5-minute unscheduled stop at Stafford due to a track circuit failure. The press had moved on. Management had already chosen the conventional high-speed train as the flagship. The advanced passenger train, APT project, was formally cancelled. 2 of the 3 train sets were broken up with sledgehammers in front of photographers, and the patents were quietly sold to Fiat Ferroviaria in Italy. Fiat folded key APT ideas into the Pendolino lineage. The tilting trains that now run on the West Coast Main Line, the ones Britain bought back for over £1 billion to serve the exact same route the APT was originally designed for, carry that technology in their engineering DNA. The Class 390 Pendolinos are reliable, comfortable, and operationally proven across decades of daily service. They are, by every practical operational measure, better trains than the APT ever managed to be during its brief time carrying passengers. But on June 17, 2021, Avanti West Coast attempted a special record run from London to Glasgow with every possible advantage. Higher line speed limits than existed in 1984, dramatically fewer trains on the road, full cooperation from network rail infrastructure teams, and 37 years of technological progress backing them up. The official time, recorded by the Railway Performance Society, was 3 hours, 53 minutes and 1 second. That was 21 seconds slower than a prototype from 1984 that suffered a 5-minute delay partway through the journey. In pure performance, raw speed over a winding Victorian railway, the advanced passenger train has still never been matched. That December 1984 record stands unchallenged. Britain did not lose this race to France or Japan. Britain lost to its own managers, its own budget committees, its own institutional preference for the familiar over the exceptional. The technology was sound. The engineering was ahead of its time. The institution that created it did not want it to succeed badly enough to protect it from itself. They did not kill a train. They killed an advantage.